Hello there friends and welcome. Today we have at long last a return to Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and we'll be reviewing its newest DLC, A Dance of Masks. Now this DLC is a bit more dialogue and story focused than the rest, as the main appeal is that you'll get to spend time with your companions, each companion having a new event. Later, all the romanceable companions also have a special event. One of the main attractions is that for once, all of the dialogue will be fully voiced, which makes sense considering it's mostly about your companions speaking. But even the new random NPCs you talk with in this DLC are also fully voiced. Personally, I don't care much about full voice acting because I know how much of a drain on the budget it is, but I know a lot of people find it highly immersive. And well, Baldur's Gate 3 proved how popular it truly is. So I do think it's quite nice that ARCANE went the extra mile and added full voice acting to this DLC. After all, the whole point is spending time with your companions. However, A Dance of Masks DLC also has some nice gameplay components. It's not just about talking, as you'll get to explore a new dungeon. There's also a new arena to fight some powerful enemies. And of course, my favorite part about it all, 11 new archetypes, many of which are very unique, as we're about to see. Not to mention new feats, items, and spells. So without further ado, let us get into our Dance of Masks DLC review, first with the story. So the DLC takes place in Kenabres, that's the very first city the game starts at. And essentially there's a big festival there, that's all about honoring the Knight Commander, the main character of the game. Essentially, it's almost as if your characters are taking a day off from all the demon fighting. The DLC, by the way, takes place at the endgame, so chapter 4, which makes sense considering it's when you are close to finally, well, defeating the big bad demon bosses. The festival area itself is quite big, and also quite endearing to be fair, because first, you'll meet a lot of NPCs that are essentially dressed as both the main character, so in my case, I did it with the Angel Mythic path, and there were a lot of NPCs wearing, you know, fake halos and angel wings. But not just that, because there's also a lot of other NPCs essentially cosplaying as your party members. So you'll get to meet a lot of extra Camellias, Greybores, Arushales, Embers, Silas, and so on. The NPCs dressed as your party members aren't just there for visual decoration, because they also play a role during many of the unique events you have with your companions. Considering this is essentially the biggest appeal of the DLC, kinda like Mass Effect Citadel, let's get into that now. Every single one of your main party companions has either one or more events with the main character. Thankfully, these events aren't just random, as they each fit your party member's personality, and by that point in the game, chances are you already learned everything about them. So you'll know what to expect when, for example, interacting with Darren, who is hosting a small contest to see which of his cosplayers is the best at portraying him. Or with Arushale the succubus, who just wants to have a normal time as if pretending she was a human for once. And my favorite of them all, Regil the Hell Knight, who is still acting all grumpy and rigid, even amidst the festival.
Commander, you are just in time.
Personally, I found all of the new companion events to be quite fun and definitely true to their personalities.
Guards have been stationed throughout the city at random. The patrols move through the streets with no discernible purpose.
It's also not just talking, because you usually have to help them with something, although the dialogue is the main focus. Now, in the second part of the DLC, kinda like an after party, you'll also get even more companion events, but unlike the first part where it was basically them individually interacting with the main character and other NPCs, this time your main companions will be in groups, so it's also nice to see them interacting with each other. The festival night will culminate in a new special event with whoever you chose to romance. So essentially there will also be something there for Arushale, Darren, Sociel, and also Camellia. I didn't really romance the queen, so I'm not sure if she's there, but my guess is yes. Although I do know that Trevor, one of the special companions, sadly didn't really get any new events. Besides all of the companion interaction, there's also some minor festival stuff you can do, like, well, the classic throwing darts, participating in a dance contest, and so on. But they're basically just small cutscenes. Lastly, the festival area itself is quite neat to look at. Definitely very well made. You have a lot of fireworks, confetti, golden lights, and stuff that actually makes you feel like you are in a festival. Certainly different from the classic sides of the setting, which is, you know, a lot of demon-destroyed stuff. And it's also quite heartwarming to see Canabris rebuilt from the ground up, as it essentially gets destroyed in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now, what about the actual story of the DLC, because it's not just about interacting with your companions. Well, I don't want to get into spoilers, but to put it simply, of course, things go sideways, as you might expect, and you do end up meeting a very famous character in the Pathfinder setting that, let's say, once you have some fun with the main character. So the actual story of the DLC is also tied to its gameplay components, so let's get into them now. First, by progressing the DLC, you'll actually get to explore a new dungeon. The dungeon looks amazing, it's basically a very luxurious palace. And of course there's some enemies to be fought there, some of which are unique, culminating in a boss battle. I personally wish the dungeon was a bit longer, but I do understand the focus was on the companion events and so on. Second, even if it's not directly tied to these story events, you'll also get to explore and participate in fights in a new arena.
I am the steward of the Echo of Fury arena, which holds the...
There are around 15 battles, and every 5th battle you kind of fight a mini-boss and you'll get a reward. The battles themselves, well, they aren't exactly hard, although you do fight a lot of mythic enemies, and each battle is definitely thematic when it comes to the enemy composition. You even fight one of the older Kingmaker bosses, which I found was very fun. And to me, that was actually the hardest battle. Speaking about difficulty, well, because this DLC takes place at the end game, your characters will already be at level 20 with, you know, max gear, max power, everything is maxed out, so I did it on Unfair as an angel, and of course it wasn't really hard. But like I said, it's the end game. There's no way it's gonna be hard, considering you've already broken the power level scale by then. The battles were definitely fun though. Also, each battle has a unique effect, kinda like the roguelike DLC where each floor has a different debuff that's affecting the main characters, or a special enemy quality that you need to be aware of. The battles themselves also aren't tests of endurance or anything, because you can always rest between every single battle. As I said, beating every one of the 3 arena bosses, including the arena champion, will grant you a special item. And you might as well cover all of the new DLC items now. Yes, as you might have expected, the new items are all very powerful, especially because it does take place at the end game. Some of which are even the new best items for their associated slot. This will just be a general overview. Later I'll have a separate guide for the new items, feats, and spells where I'll cover each in depth. But just as examples, you'll now have the ultimate bracers for any melee or ranged character that can increase your damage by a massive amount, 3d10, while also being the best at defenses plus 10 armor. Speaking about damage, we also have a new best armor for that, it's medium, but will provide you with absolutely massive amounts of strength and constitution that stack with everything else. I'm very pleased to say that at long last we finally have a top hat, which is perfect for the Trickster portrait, and some very nice spell boosting gear for not only much higher caster level, but also spell DC. We also have a new weapon type, the Sawtooth Saber, which is perfect for one of the new archetypes that's all about wielding them, as I'll soon explain. Sawtooth Sabers are unique in that they are light weapons, but have the same base damage as a long sword. They're also finessable, of course. Their critical range is not the best, it's the same as a longsword as well, but it makes up for everything else. And they are also exotic weapons. You even have new Pearl of Power items that essentially allow you to cast more spells per day, and that's always a welcome addition. The DLC also has some new feats and spells that I'll cover better later, but the best ones are basically more focused into granting you spell power, such as Ambuscading Spell, which increases your difficulty class against enemies that are flat-footed, so high initiative is even better. I'm afraid the pickpocket background is here to stay. There's also a few new spells, mostly for arcane casters, including bards. Sadly, they are all low level, up to around level 4. I really do wish we had higher level spells, especially level 9 ones. But anyways, unfortunately, I don't think we have any new mythic abilities or feats. Now I've decided to save the best for last, and it's all about the new archetypes. We have 11 new ones for the classes that essentially did not get new archetypes in the last DLC. This is actually my favorite part of the DLC. You know, companion events are nice and all, but I'm more of a gameplay type of guy, especially because, well, more archetypes change the way you play the game and actually make you want to start new runs and so on. I'm very pleased to say that I think this is the archetype pack that Alcat put most of the work into, in that they are definitely the most unique of them all. That is, some archetypes get stuff that you cannot get anywhere else, not through another class, items and so on. For example, Titan Fighter has the special ability of dual-wielding two-handed melee weapons, something you can't get anywhere else. I'm not sure why Pathfinder doesn't have the monkey grip feat, but it's just the way it is. The reason I'm saying this is because I know that a lot of people kinda complain that the archetypes in the game feel the same. Besides a few different abilities, this is not the case for these new archetypes, however. As another example, we have the Magic Deceiver Arcanist, with the very unique ability of fusing spells, so you do get to combine 2 spells in one, kinda like the spell sequencer and trigger abilities from Baldur's Gate 2, which I highly miss. We also have the Drunken Master Monk, with its unique ability of restoring key points, which are drunken key, by essentially consuming all sorts of different alcoholic beverages you find, and also gets increasingly more powerful bonuses depending on how drunk you are, so the bigger your key pool is. Followed by another one of my favorites, the Inciter SKALD, which is basically SKALD but better, and we already know how powerful they are, as you get to add sneak attack to not only yourself but all of your allies, and even increase the power of your Raging Song to also debuff the enemies through Insult, for less attack rolls and armor class. Plus another one of my new favorites, the Mantis Zealot WARPRIEST, which is the class all about dual-wielding your new Sawtooth Saber weapons. You have a lot of unique and fun abilities, such as a Shroud that increases your defenses, grants you regeneration, increases your attacks. It kinda does everything in one neat little ability. Plus even the ability to crowd control enemies automatically by just killing them. Well, the surviving enemies anyways. The Sable Company Marine Ranger, which gets a special Griffin pet that you cannot get anywhere else. And some other fun stuff that I'll cover better in my new archetypes guide, which will be a standalone so we can really get into how they work, their unique abilities and so on. Overall, I do think this DLC is one of the best yet, because it has something for everyone, right? You have new events, voiced ones even with your companions, plus also a very strong gameplay side to it, with most importantly the new archetypes, the arena, new items, feats, spells and so on. Frankly, just based on the archetypes alone, I would already recommend getting it, but it really is the complete package, and frankly, one of the types of content I would love to have in Baldur's Gate 3. I know they already said the story is finished, but, you know, adding more classes, abilities, spells, feats, gear and so on doesn't actually require you to change the story. So overall, I would definitely recommend buying and getting a Dance of Masks DLC for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Well, alright friends, so this was it for our DLC review. I'll very soon release a guide that's all about the new archetypes, and later of course standalone guides for each one of them with a new build prepared. As always, please remember to like and subscribe if you can to support the channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.